Last time in Writing with Robbie.
I'm going to go do the final edit for my novella. And now I'm going to share it with everybody. Sorry. I did not expect that. I don't know the word. Oh god, it's stuck in my head now. Anyhow, so I really just wanted to come quickly say yesterday it took about 8, almost 9. No, it definitely took more than that. It took over 8.5 hours just to read and review the language in my novella. And other than the first 2 chapters, everything mostly remained the same. After 2 months of not looking at it and reading it back, I was so surprised to love so much of my story. There was a couple sections that were edited by a professional, and yet somehow there was a lot of things added that were in the wrong tense. Like it was in the present tense when it should have been in the past tense, or vice versa. I couldn't even tell you, unfortunately, even though I wrote it. I'll let you know in a few days. I just read it last night. I really don't know. Hold on. But yeah, I think it's written in like past tense. But it's like I don't know, but the tenses kept changing. I was like, that ain't right. So I had to fix that. And then when I went to go format, everything was a little wonky, so I had to redo that. So it took about 8 hours, and I think it was like, excuse me, I played like a 9-hour frequency, like a 936 hertz frequency for 9 hours, and I got to like 8 hours and 48 minutes or something, I think, and that's when I was done with the editing the language. And I will say the first 2 chapters are the 2 chapters that I edit the most, so I couldn't even tell you if I'm gonna be satisfied with that in another month because I've edited so much. But I will say that the way it is now is the least amount that I've edited, if that makes any sense. Like I would write that paragraph and then I would rewrite the whole paragraph again and again and again and again. But this time, yesterday, I only what did I do? I edited that paragraph, but I didn't have to rewrite the whole thing. There would just be like a couple of lines, like maybe 3 or 4 lines in the whole first chapter that I kept doing again and again and again, and that was just yesterday. And then in the second chapter, I'm saying chapter, I can't even call it a chapter really, but I did title sections of it. So the second section, or second chapter, is what we'll continue to call it. That area, there was a part where I just kept being worried that it was confusing. And since I took 2 months off of it and read it again with fresh eyes, I see that it was not confusing. That's the good news. But I still wanted it to have a little more accuracy to what I imagined in my mind. Speaking of, 2 sections with the how the magic works. I like the wording, but I was like, does that even make sense? Like, it was just like my brain stopped functioning a little bit after a while. Like, it was like, I know English, I know these words, I don't know what image it's creating when I put them together, but at a time I wrote those words, and like I can literally read it back and I can tell where I wrote that or where the editor suggested this or that. So I know they were my words, and I don't even remember editing them frequently. So I think those words I have been comfortable with for a long time, and then just yesterday I was like, I can't picture that. So that's not a good sign. But it was a really small section and it was really far into the story. So I think by the time you get there, you'll either understand it anyway, because I try to keep the language mostly simple, or you won't understand it, but it'll be so quick and forgivable because that part of the story was so juicy. And I think that's what made it hard for me to, like, not hard, but I think that's what made that portion, that's going to hit later when you read my book. But that portion, I think, will be I think it was just so juicy that I just didn't notice that I didn't really grasp the language there before. But I wrote it. They're my words. So I had to understand it at one point. And I can't even remember what the words were. It was literally 2 words, but one of them was a compound word. So it was like 3 words. And I was just like, I don't know if that's proper. Like, it is a grammatically correct sentence, but I couldn't tell you if that's the image that I was trying to put forth or not. But nobody complained. Like, that the language has been in there for a while. Nobody complained. And I will say that at least, yeah, 3 out of 4 of the readers would talk to me about what they read and find some deep and profound symbolism and meaning that I was like, that's all God, girl, because I didn't do it by myself, number one. And number two, some of the stuff they were saying, I didn't even notice. Like, there is this kind of sort of sense of nobody's good and nobody's evil. Everybody's a little bit of each, or a different amalgamation of both concepts, if you believe in the duality. And I don't know if that was ever really a conscious thing for all the characters. I guess it kind of was, but not like I was like, I'm going to write all these morally gray characters. It wasn't like that. It was kind of like I had an amoral character, and I was like, but at this point in his life, he would be doing more good than bad, at least in his mind. That's how he would consider that. And then I had a more like a more honorable character, supposedly, apparently, but then, like, when I was getting feedback, they were like, well, she's over here judging him and da-da-da-da, you know what I mean? But people still love the characters. It's just that it's very clear to me, I don't want to spoil it, but my main character, my main protagonist, right, and kind of like who I've been referring to as a sort of catalyst to the story, but for here we'll call him a secondary antagonist in case you haven't watched all of my videos. So we have our primary protagonist and our secondary antagonist, and they're kind of the main characters. And even though we see a lot of their stories separately, and I'm not necessarily trying to say so, I've heard that, like, people say they totally belong together. So I don't know. My readers are seeing some profound things that I'm not necessarily meaning to do. I want to keep this short because my phone's about to die any second. But I just wanted to say that, like, you know, since I'm taking a break here from editing, I haven't started again today. I only slept 3 hours, and I stayed in the bed like another 3 hours, and I could not fall asleep. I was just laying there like, maybe I should just get up. But this is my last full editing day is the plan. I will give myself tomorrow if I absolutely need it, but I really don't want to need it because I still have a lot to do. And like I said, I'm 2 weeks behind, so hopefully this is all I need. I have that bonus chapter to finish, and it's going to be basically in the book as an unproofed arc. I only had 4 people really read my story and help me edit anyway, so it's not unproofed, but it is like minimally proofed. And then I have this bonus chapter, which nobody's going to see it until it's out, and I'm really, really nervous about that. I thought about sending it to the editor, but if she can't get back to me fast enough, it's still going in there, so it doesn't matter. Like, if I'm trying to put it in there tomorrow, if I'm trying to write it today, like, she's not going to get to tell me if it's good or bad. I'm just going to have it in there. So hopefully it's good. And after a short while, like, depending on how the reviews go and how I feel, because I'm going to read the book several more times myself, I might decide to edit it again and then re-upload it. But I just have a feeling that I'm going to be able to get it at least good enough to maintain as an unproofed arc until I release the next story with the finalized and edited version. So that's all I'm gonna say. I think I have like 4%. I have 3% left. So, but yeah, good news is I still love my story. I laughed, I cried, I cringed. And the part that normally makes me cry, this time I made it through that part. And then it was like something shortly after that made me cry that had never made me cry before. It was something way earlier that made me cry. I was like, okay, if my book is moving me this much and I wrote it and I know what happens and et cetera, I'm really about to move some people. So I'm going to let that be it so my phone doesn't die while I'm talking. Right now I'm watching Read with Cindy. I just had my breakfast. I'm gonna chill for probably another hour, hour and a half, maybe even 2 hours. And I don't think I'm gonna fall asleep because at this point I had breakfast and it was a super great rainy day. So if I'm still up, I'm still up. I'm up for the day. I think I'm just crazy because this is crunch time, and I knew I was gonna be kind of crazy, but I legit could not. Like, I went to bed at 5:45 in the morning, and I woke up at 9:30. So I don't even know. It was actually before 9:30. That's when I looked at my phone. So it was probably closer to 8:30 when I got up. So yeah, I'm a mess right now, but it's working for me. So I'm going to keep working it. Peace.
He grew up with a single mom, and some of the things that the book goes into is trauma and domestic violence and addiction. If you're Vietnamese like me, this is just a regular Saturday for you. Truly, the Vietnamese experience is complete when you sprinkle in a little bit of trauma. I'm echoing the same thing that a lot of people say, which is that his prose is very lovely, very gorgeous, like the title itself. It's the kind of writing that I would normally go for because I love lyrical writing. I love it when authors stuff their prose with a shit ton of metaphors. Unfortunately, this book didn't really hit strongly enough for me to enjoy it beyond like the technical skill of his writing.
It is Wednesday, June 18th. It is Wednesday, June 15th. And we are not where we want to be. But I got a message to go with the flow. So today I'm, obviously figured I'd be recording. So I'm going to go get to it, do another round of edit on this bonus chapter. And I think I'm going to have to do another round of at least just reading the full story, making sure the grammar is correct. But I would like to be done tonight. I really would. I'm still being told go with the flow, but I'm also being told it's very possible to be done today. I went through the entire bonus chapter yesterday before I went to bed, but I feel like there's one more area where I need to research. Oh my gosh. And the area that I'm referring to is the language because, spoiler alert, mild spoiler, there's going to be a need for some translation into another language at some point. And I just remembered that I have a book, like just a couple of chapters, and they're very short, but to read on how to write using languages in your story. So I'm gonna go do that because alright, so we're behind, but we're gonna do it. We're gonna go with the flow, and it's gonna be fabulous. I keep also being told, like, you could just put it out and it's going to be great. But I want to do my best. No regrets. So I really was hoping to have my story uploaded onto Amazon and Ingram Spark by Monday, which is 2 days ago. However, on my calendar, I originally had it set up for this Friday, but I also intended to have a lot more done, such as a website, and have my second copyright done. So the story is copyrighted, but a lot of the material, not a lot of the material, but things like chapter titles, and the new title of the story are not covered under that. So I wanted to make sure that's done, as well, which I'll be doing literally, like, I'm going to, post it onto Amazon and Ingram Spark. They're both going to make me wait a couple of days, but immediately after that, or the next morning after that, depending on what time I finish, that's when I'm going to do my additional or my second copyright for the story. So it is protected. I can prove that it's mine, etc., etc. But I just want, like, every word copywritten, documented somewhere as best as possible. Excuse me. So just an update for the copyright. But so right now I'm going to go into I guess I'm going to go into the bonus chapter again. I have just a few more notes on that, but I did go through the whole thing yesterday. There's a little more dialogue that I need to really dive in and perfect, but the scenes are in order. I know the content for the scenes, or the general content for the scenes, but we're about to get specific dialogue, and I know one character, a side character, I I need to remember what I was going to name her. I don't see the notes for that. I don't think I wrote it down. I probably just was like, I'll pick a name later. But I know I had one that I was strongly considering, and then I got sidetracked because I saw my friend's daughter's name who was just recently born, and I was like, oh, it's on this list. I don't know. And then I just dorked out and forgot. But so I'm listening to an Epic Writer Subliminal is what it's called on YouTube, and it does it for me. It does it for me, and I know, you know, it's 3 hours, so if I loop it, if I hear it twice, I know I worked for 6 hours. So I know yesterday I worked for more than 6 hours. So I'm definitely putting in the time that I like, and that's what I'm trying to remind myself. Like, if you didn't give yourself this deadline, you'd be really proud of where you are. So maybe you should just be proud of where you are. But I still want to catch this deadline, and it's so important to me. And not only is it important, but I really have my heart set on doing it a certain way, and everything has lined up so divinely that I just have to stop and say thank you, Spirit, for allowing that to happen. And so here we are, so close to being able to do everything exactly how I want, and I think I can still do that. But I think, you know, if it's not exactly how I want, it can be done similarly, or I'll have to be patient, which is something that I've had to learn to be more, I had to learn to be more patient. So it's kind of like I want it done a certain way, and I want it done by a certain time. But Spirit's like, look, I can give you by a certain time. It just, you know, we might adjust this, I won't even say Spirit, but based on what I'm thinking is possible, what I'm perceiving is possible right now, I'm like, I can have it exactly how I want, or I can have it exactly when I want. But I would not be surprised if it was divinely aligned that I can have it exactly how I want, when I want. But I still need to plan for having to adjust one or the other of those things. I can still have a really great well, I don't even want to talk about what it is, but I can get this out exactly how I want. Or I can still make it really great, but it wasn't the exact vision, and it might end up being better than the exact vision. That's typically how these things work out. So I'm gonna be calm, and it's already 1 o'clock, and I haven't even started yet today. So that's what we're about to do. Which means either I'm in a good enough energy and mindset where I can get this all done, you know, today, because I went to bed last night instead of finishing even later. Like, I still went to bed at like 2 o'clock, you know what I mean, or 1 o'clock, I don't know. But, or this could be another all-nighter, in which case I wouldn't feel comfortable allowing myself to upload it to Amazon and Ingram Spark because it's so late, and I'll want to sleep on it and look at it with fresh eyes the next day and then upload it, which then puts me at yet another day, and I still have stuff to do. And today is like the day I was like, look, if it doesn't get by, like, it has to be done by today, because you have something else to do the next day for this, and then you have something you know, for the next day with someone else who, you know, is somebody who I want to invest my time into and help them on their journey as well. And then I have a familial thing. So if it's not today, it would be Saturday or Sunday or Monday, and I will not take this into another week as best I can. So I'm claiming that it'll be done today, and I feel pretty good about that, because I feel like I'm being sent messages that are confirming that no matter what I do from this point, like if I just stopped right now and sent it out, it would still do very well. But I want it to still be my best. So I'm feeling called to do my best, even though I think that we are at good enough. You know what I mean? So more than good enough. I think it's more than good enough, but it still has to be my best. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get into it. I mean, times, you know, no time like the present. So cool. I have the house to myself right now, so I'm just like, well, you know, me and my kiddos, but I'm just like really vibing with my story. My subliminals working for me. I legit cried. Like, I was teary-eyed. I had to do one of these. I was like, oh no, mess up my makeup. I don't know. It's very light anyway, so it's fine. But yeah, so it ended up, I really like it. And I've only been actually getting the words out. Like, I knew the content that I was going to put in the bonus chapter, but I didn't know the specifics of the language or a couple of small details. And one particularly large detail, I had an idea of what I wanted to do, but what I had, I wasn't in love with because I didn't want to repeat another symbol in the story. So I did something that I'm not sure if it's as unique as I want it to be, but it honestly, once I thought it up, I was just like, oh, that makes so much sense, because it kind of goes with this character. And I realized that there was I'm not going to say who, but I started watching a show, and there was a character on that show who really is similar, like somewhat like she, I didn't realize, but I was like, this character can be a bit of a source of inspiration for this other sort of side character who isn't even in this story, but is referenced in a way where we kind of get this moment of understanding one of the characters that we've been getting to know a little better. I'm not going to spoil that for you, but as you I was like, here I am saying what I just said I wasn't going to say. It's not a spoiler, but like, so we have a sort of side character. You know, I'm making everybody real round, okay? And I'm giving you a chance. Like, I've already given you a chance to meet this person, but now I'm letting you get to know them on a really intimate level in a bonus chapter, no less. So that just goes to show, and this is me giving it to you in a bonus chapter, but also these are not. That should be a clue as to how much I'm not telling you about the next story. So everything is very well-rounded, and I'm starting to get kind of emotionally drawn into these characters myself. And I'm like, I just came to edit the language, and that's what I was hoping that was all I had to do. But I was kind of concerned, like, are these the final details that I want to put in my story? And I started to get a little bit nervous. Like, of course I'm letting the reader know that this is an unproved arc and things will change, but I also want to be as true to the ultimate chapter that this epilogue will become. That being said, I was still concerned because there's only, like, I want to put this in today, and I'm like, and this was just last night that I was saying, you know, I hope, you know, are these going to be the final details? Like, is the content, like, I would like the content to ideally stay the same from when I publish it as my bonus chapter / epilogue to when it is in to when it is in the next tale as a chapter, as a relatively early chapter as well. So I was still like, well, hopefully I don't have to change any details at all. But I thought that would be an optimistic thought. And I was like, hopefully when I get up tomorrow and I read it back, I love the details, and all I have to do is finalize the language in some areas. And then as we get toward the end, I can get more specific about the dialogue as well. I already have, you know, specified dialogue at the top, and I'm liking that. I'm liking all the content that I put in, that I kind of have been marinating on it for a while before I realized it was a bonus chapter, only to realize, no, of course I should put that in this book. It was never a thing of, I never took it out. Like, the story was done, and I just knew that this chapter was in a future story. But before I got done with my final, like, the previous draft, I just got an idea, why not add a bonus chapter? And I don't know what made me come to that. I was watching a video, but I'm like, was it somebody doing a bonus chapter? I don't remember that, but I just was like, I do want an epilogue, but I want it to be something that will wrap up the world in a way that doesn't spoil anything for the next adventure, but gives you an understanding of the wealth of information that I have on each of these characters. So when you read it as the novella and the epilogue, I want you to love these characters as if these will be the only people that you'll see. But I also want to make way for the person, the individual who I see as the main character, and the other characters that surround that character. And surrounding that character's tale are other rich characters that are actually the people who I had to get to know in order to have a clue as to who these other people were in this novella. So these people in the novella who are perfectly standing alone without the main characters, you know, that's what I wanted to do with that. I wanted to be able to satisfy you as a full, well-rounded story on its own, and it absolutely is. Every time I tell people these are the main characters, these are not the main characters of the world, they can't believe it. But that's the thing, is I've been able to really get to know them, get to love them, and I'm like, their stories deserve to be told as well. So I want that to be, but I don't want it to ever be info dumping or exposition, which gives me an ability to, as I tell you this story, if it feels organic to do so, I can give you just a taste of who these people are outside of the main character. Because even though your main character, your main antagonist especially, will create the rest of your cast. The main character creates the rest of your cast. The main antagonist creates the events of the story, in my opinion. Because you have to paint your antagonist to be unbeatable. And then you have to be creative enough to figure out either how your protagonist can beat them or how they can lose to them, and let that be equally as satisfying as if they had won. You know what I mean? So it's a thinking challenge. So I did have to, excuse the wig, because if it's not looking exactly as it was earlier, I had to take her off because I was like, I need all the blood I can get while I'm writing. But she's feeling her oats with this wig. Yes, honey. No, I don't know. So anyway, but I'm going to get back to this while I still have the house to myself. I think I should have it for another hour, maybe hour and a half. And I actually got through the first third really quickly. Like, I think I was here maybe 50 minutes and I did the first third, like, of this bonus chapter editing done, which I didn't even think it would take that long to get through the first segments, because I had tried to get them as close as I could to publish ready when I wrote, well, not when I wrote them, but when I, because I already knew the content. So when I went back to basically just fill in with rich dialogue, that's what I did. I was like, let's try to get this print ready just in case, because I wanted to do it on Monday. And then the middle section is the section where I was like, I'm not, like, it wasn't even the middle section. I guess it was the second fourth is the section where I kind of like, was like, there's a lot of information here that I need to give, but I only just realized that this is how I wanted to do that. And now I have to see if that's going to satisfy. And today I'm looking back at that, and I really love the content, and I even love the dialogue. I love how it played out. And I was afraid last night that one part was going to seem too convenient, and it absolutely did. But I like, that's almost it really wasn't. But it also kind of was a part of the character for them to behave like that. And it speaks, I can't really say, because I don't want to really talk about it without spoiling, so I'm not going to say that. But we can talk about that more in the future. Because it's an arc, so we can talk about it. You can tell me, we can dialogue about how you felt about my bonus chapter, and then help me improve it for the next tale. But I kind of like how it wrapped up, because I was like, I don't really want to get into this deeply here, and I also want this person to kind of have to also like have this individual prove themselves to be more mature. because I have these two characters where if you don't know them yet, which you don't initially, you might assume one is the older one and the other is the younger. So I'm kind of a light spoil here. But then we see that, we learn that the other one is actually older, but the other one's always been very mature. And then we see, without it even being this character's perspective or this character's story, we can see that that one had to be mature. And it's not even about that one, it's about the other one. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just trying to make it really rich, but I also have like character traits that they have that I'm using as a tool. You know what I mean? I was like, I don't really want to get into this deeply with this particular character. One, it's not their story, but two, I just didn't, I was like, I don't think that it's necessary to have this particular character dwell on this event. So because of how I've been writing them up until that point, it almost was like, well, oh, if this one's actually the more mature one, I mean the older one, and this one's just seeming more mature, then maybe we can let this character be so ridiculously mature that we can wrap this up quickly. And it was, honestly, it seemed very organic still, because I even went one step further and not wrap it up quickly, but have this person kind of be the wiser in the situation, and then not only are they the wise one, but a person who's supposed to be even wiser than both of them then had to learn from this one. And I'm saying too much, and I'm trying to be vague, but when you read it, it's going to hit like, it's actually going better than I thought. And then I went to go eat breakfast, and then I came back, and I was like, I really want to take this moment and not do what I normally do after I eat and get wrapped up in watching stuff and chilling and etc., etc. I would rather get back into it. So that's what I did, and it was really hard not to. But then I just like got back into it, and there was still an air of like, okay, I'm doing it. And then all of a sudden I was like, wait, hold up. And then I got really into it, and it didn't take that long because I've been doing this thing, and I think I just typed it out on the screen at one point, but it was every 500 words in the story should be really interesting and compelling. And how that came about is like a person who was gonna be a beta reader, didn't really work out, but she was like, hey, do you want to trade 500 words of our story? And like just kind of do a swap, me swap 500 words with her 500 words. And I was like, that's actually a great idea, because I was on a section and I was trying to make this convenient meet cute, and I was just like, this is kind of boring. And when she said that, I was like kind of nervous, because I was like, I don't want to send her this because it's kind of boring. And I was like, oh duh, any 500 words in my story need to be good. So I then took that as a challenge to make the next 500 words that were going to initially be just quick, convenient, boring, make them really interesting, while like using everything I know about my world as a tool, to make that meet cute both interesting, telling, but also really brief. And as we know, Robert McKee from Story, well, I don't know where he's from, but he wrote the book Story, and in that book he says brevity takes time. So basically that means it's going to take a lot of work and effort in order to make a really brief but really good piece, or moment. And that was about screenplays, but obviously that can translate to any type of writing or storytelling. That's what it was about, storytelling. So for me, yeah, like I said, I took that as a challenge to make that 500 words really interesting, and I got like a moment that was really, I just want to spoil it because it's so short and it's so good, and it's so not even really a part of the story. I just made it cute. And then I still had them do the same physical motion that I was seeing in my mind, but I didn't know what happened in that moment until that person asked for 500 words, and I was like, well, I'm gonna have to look a little deeper than, they just bumped into each other. I need to say, well, this is how this person was feeling and why, and then this person was actually doing this That's why they were out. But do that in a way that it's not just me telling you blah, blah, blah. It's me showing you the action of this moment and the chillaxing of this moment and how those moments collided. And I'm not taking you out of the story or telling you another short story to do so or anything. I'm just kind of like bringing you into that moment as if you were watching that as a pedestrian. Yeah. Now I'm saying, no, I'm not saying too much, but I'm not going to say anymore. So my wig's slipping off. I need to get back to this. It's saying take me off so you can have all the blood in your head so that you can write the edit the next portion of this, which I had a concern would be the hardest portion, because even though I did go through all the content and make sure all except for one tiny little section was ordered, but even that tiny section has all the content that I need. And even the dialogue is pretty on par to what I want it to say. So I just have to order one tiny section and fulfill the dialogue for two smaller sections, but they're not small. So that's why I think I'm a little concerned. But the section that I, saw today, I was like, yo, that exceeded my expectations. And I actually got teary-eyed more than once. Like, I see that I'm really writing with emotion and feeling that people can relate to. And I'm not saying the writer's subliminal is helping. It's psychology, but it's magic. Just because you can explain it doesn't mean it's not magic. That's how I see it. But also, I think a lot of this is divine creation. I really do. I don't think that this all came from me, because it's just shaping up to be so, I want to say important, but that seems like let's humble ourselves here. Important? Who are you, Miss Too Big for Your Britches? But it just seems like I'm getting some help here. It seems like yes, I worked hard. Yes, I did a lot of this. I can't belittle that, but I also feel like humbled by the writing. When I read it back, I'm like, no, it's not perfect. Like, I can see the human in there, but I'm just like, oh yeah, I did say that. Oh, I did word this section like this. Or, oh my God, I did have a moment of realization about this character that I realized I wanted to let the reader experience that realization that I did, instead of being like, well, I know, so let me just tell everybody. No, I'm going to give it to you the way that I received it, because, oh, I'm about to cry. That's my favorite part. Sorry. I'm sorry. I don't know what that was. I'm going to take this up. I think it's too tight. The makeup must be blocking my crown chakra or something, but I don't know. My third eye see it. That was really dope. I'm sorry, but I really love my story, and I manifested that I would, but I just feel like it can't just be on me, and I kept being like, well, I needed more people to read it. I needed more opinions, but I satisfied the person that I need to satisfy with the story. That's how I feel. And if me with all my imposter syndrome can feel like this when I read it, I think that it's going to do what I ultimately wanted to do, which is to help have other people experience those moments that I did when I wrote it. So, and I hope it's not too dark. That's a real concern, because after I say all of that and how all these feelings that I experienced, my cousin was like, you need to tell people, it was like, you need to tell people that this is a dark fantasy, because I thought I was about to read Harry Potter, and he was really like, no, you're being misleading. I have to show y'all, I think I will, but we rejected my self-made trailer that was movie theater level I was trying to do, because he just was like, it's not dark enough. And I didn't think it was not dark enough, but there was one other point where he was like, and this, I'm not going to get into it because if I do a video about it, you'll just see. But it was just some other smaller concerns that I had that he also noted. So I was like, look, okay, this is a screenplay writer. If he's seeing the exact same flaws I'm seeing, that means they're there. And if I don't want to invest the time or the energy to fix these things, then it's probably not going to work out. So, but once I took that off of my to-do list, I felt like I could do this a lot sooner. And I still was going to push this out another 2 months. But there was like a wedding in my family that I really wanted to go to. And I was like, if I can afford to by then, you know, like I can put it out now and I can afford to by then. But of course, RSVPs, so I still can't go. But it made me realize that it was possible to move my date up even more, which is going to help me manifest the other things that I wanted to manifest before this year's out. So that's great, because I was like, how am I going to do all this? But I wrote it down and I said, this is the goal, this is the deadline. And Spirit's like, I'm going to make that possible for you. And that's what I mean. I don't feel like I've done any of this by myself. Like, I've had this story, I've had this idea. This particular idea I've had about 2.5 years almost, I think. But the concept of this world, first of all, I had that concept of this world for almost 7 years, 6.5 or 7 years. And an original premise was even longer ago than that. Like, I want to say 4 years before that. So probably 10 or 11 years we're approaching with the premise that helped me evolve the idea to get to this point. And it actually was a series of multiple ideas. But the first premise that I would not let go of was over 10 years ago now. And then the one that I thought of, that I combined the two, came not very long after. But I let the ideas go, and I grew as a person. I've come a long way, and it makes me wonder if Spirit was always like, I've been shaping you to write this story the way it's meant to be. I've learned a lot. Like, even now, as I'm hoping to put this onto the internet, you know, insert it into Amazon by the end of the night, like, even now, I'm still learning about these characters, and that's not going to stop. The way N.K. Jemisin makes me think from her masterclass, I think that even after these stories conclude, I'll still be learning things about these characters. But for now, I can say without a doubt that I'll be learning things about these characters all the way until I publish the last book in this series. And then I was like, I have a feeling that the people are going to want to know what happens even outside of these 4 books that I've already I don't know if I've said that, but outside of these 4 books that I want to do, I'm not sure if people are going to know, are going to be satisfied. Like, they're going to be satisfied with this arc, with this story, with what I've promised. But I've also kind of set up in a way for other stories to be told. Even with this novella, there's a group that already the people who have read it, they're like, I want to know more about these people. And I'm like, oh, that's crazy, because I had no intention of showing you that. But I've also learned more, you know, in the process when I went through that huge document of all the notes in the entire world and that I'm creating. And I'm realizing that even though it's not, it's a complete and full story without, there are small, you know, ways that I could weave, you know, the things that people have already been asking to see more of that I didn't intend to show. I can weave shorter stories, shorter arcs, subplots, novellas into these gaps here. Not gaps, because they're not empty. They're not void of story or interest. There's going to be so much well-rounded things happening in a short amount of time that if something were missing, you would not notice. That's what I'm creating for you. And there are pockets within that, because I've made everything so well-rounded that a Z-level character If our main character is A and their friends are B and those people's like the people they encounter are C, a Z level character in my story should be interesting enough, and likely at this point is already interesting enough that you want to know more. And I've woven it away in the novella where, say, a G or an H-ish level character, I've pondered a way that I can give you a continuing arc with that person before I even wrote their first line of dialogue, okay? And that doesn't mean that I'm definitely going to do that, but if I want to, I'm creating a way for that. Just the fact that I know this person exists in my world, they're now a tool that I can use in my world. And if I tinker, I might need a hammer, but one day I might need a screw. You know what I mean? So it might be a big or small thing. I might need a jackhammer one day, which would be our main characters, but so to speak. But tomorrow I might need a nut or a bolt. You know what I mean? Like, I might need a hairpin. You know what I mean? I don't know. So that's what I want all of my characters to do. So even in that within that 500 words that I mentioned earlier, that in that moment my friend asked me for my next 500, she didn't say next, but she said 500, and that's what I was roughly working on. And she said, when I feared that they would be boring, that challenge made me then create not a side character, but a passing pedestrian that I then made so interesting, intriguing, that I decided, perhaps I'll give them a characteristic interesting enough that people will have expected it with the world that I'm creating, and I'll satisfy it in that moment, and they'll realize, well, if they're putting this here, they being me, then what shall be next? If this is where we put this element that I expected, and they're only in this small chunk of 500 words or less, then what shall be next? And that's in the beginning of the story. That's in our first third, for sure, in our first third of the novella. So, and the novella was not necessarily going to be a numbered part of this series, but then I was divulging so much information to fill her out, to thicken her, that I thought, yes, this is number one. This is number one. Her story must be told, and this is number one. And I knew the story needed to be told, and I was like, is it a short enough story that I can put it into what was then what I thought was number one? And then I said, no, it's not. And then when I created that, the people said, there are more characters, but these are the people I need to know. This is the story I'm in, the one that I must follow. I must see how this unfolds. And I said, don't worry, you will. And they said, no, I don't need to just see it. I need to live it. And so I made it number one. Because it simply was. When something is number one, you let it be number one. And the rest shall fall back. Ain't that something? So now book 2. I was like, maybe I can just call it 0.5, but nope. The people wanted it to be number one. And it's a story that needed to be told, and I realized that it was becoming more important. So I realized, though, that this story was becoming more important when I realized that a certain character was in the story. And if you've been following my videos from very early, you might have heard me say that, spoil that small detail, that I learned that a certain character was in the story, and then I realized I had to learn that character better. And then I realized I had to love that character better. And then I wanted to let the reader, again, that was another moment when I wanted the reader to experience what I experienced. Since I was surprised to learn that they were in the story, I was like, how am I going to let the reader be interested in this character and have them be surprised they're in the story? Like, how am I going to show them and then surprise them? You know, I was like, how could that happen? But it does read kind of like that. So I've said too much already, but I don't think that would spoil it really. It's just because it's so early in the telling. I hope it's early enough. It's in, like, again, that first third or first quarter of the novella. I don't even know. It might be too long to call a novella, but that's what I'm calling it. And until somebody corrects me. I mean, it doesn't say it on the novella, so I think it'll be okay. Somebody can correct me and I'll be like, oh, okay, well, it's long enough to be a novel. But I don't think that it is, especially in comparison to what the others will be. But yeah, so I wanted that to read like that. And so that's when I learned that it was getting too important to consider it a half a story, because, like I said, I had to get to know this more important character once I realized they were in the story. But by them being in the story and then also being an early focus of the next story, I was like, oh snap, like this individual who I've been calling not the main protagonist, not the main antagonist, but a little of both. So I've been calling him a catalyst in the story, definitely the main catalyst of the story. And this person, I realized, was not only in this one, but the main focus of the beginning of the next one, even though still not the main character. And I realized it doesn't matter, because even when they're not in the scene, they kind of, we're still getting exposition about them in a way. So that being said, I was like, this is our reason to put some more respect on the title of this book. I still wanted to make it a great standalone, but it is officially the number one in this I don't know, I forgot what you call it when it's 4 books. It's not quadrilogy. Yeah, I didn't take this off, right? But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The point is, there are 4, and it needed to be 4 anyway. Like, that was more satisfying for reasons that you'll find out when you get to know my characters and the world better. So I was just like, yeah, let's do it. Let's make it a quadrilogy. And sorry, I don't know, it's tickling me so much, but I'm gonna remember that word, and I'm gonna be really embarrassed because it's nothing like that. I know it. It's like saga. It's saga, isn't it? But anyway, the saga. Yeah, quadrilogy is better. Let's just stick with that. Okay, so yeah, I was like, okay, so we needed to be 4 anyway. Didn't realize it needed to be 4, but once it was 4, it was more satisfying for me by far. And it was like, why didn't I think of that before? Yeah, so I'm not stalling. I just want to give the clearest update possible. I am quite emotional, but things keep going far better than I expect. I only have about another hour if I'm lucky here by myself, but this is it, baby. This is it. If the people don't love it, it's still an arc, but y'all are gonna love it. Do you hear me? Do you hear me? Y'all are going to love it. It is the tea. It is the tea. My now concern. Okay, so I've been watching Jessie E from Bow Ties and Books. Shout out to you. And I just watched. Well, I'm still in like the last fourth of a really dope video that they just made, which is like a video about books that were mysteries that they read, like a compilation of mystery books that they read that were Black, that were, a lot of them were queer, or I won't even say all Black, some of them were like just multiracial. It was very inclusive. There were neurodivergents. Somebody had an asthma inhaler. You know what I mean? Like it was it. I was like, do they have an EpiPen? Because now it just made me like, I need to see if anybody has a peanut allergy in my story, because you're right. Like even down to that, it needs to be included. And I considered that for a character, but I was like, let me not even think about that right now, because in the novella I wanted to give you the ride of your life and yet seduce you with the unfolding of information. So as you're like, I want you to be, ooh, yes, a tantric experience with exposition, if you will. Like it's slow and it's teasing, but you love it. You know what I mean? You love it because you're also seeing like so many things are happening. So, and Jessie E was reading these books that sounded so good. It was just blowing my mind. Like I don't even watch BookTube to get book recommendations. I just watch it because I like to see people that I would be cool with talk about books. That's it. And YouTube has been suggesting to me the people, and I'm like, yeah, I would kick it with them, yeah. And then they pick another person, and I'm like, okay, all right, that was all right, I might check that out again. And whoever I watch the most, they keep giving me their videos. So Jessie E, Jessie O from the Jessie Owens channel, Reading with Cindy, which I think is just actually called With Cindy now. Left on Red was one that I also really loved. I don't know why I didn't watch that much of her videos. I think I just watched the ones that have books that I've already read, so that's probably why, because I just was like, wow, I want to read that book, I want to read that book, so I just stopped watching her videos because I'm not looking for recommendations. I'm just looking for you know, just kind of like a peer. Like you turn into what you tune into. So I would like to tune into people reading books because that's what I need to be doing, or writing books. So that's what I do. And there was one more. Oh, Murphy Napier, love. So you know, and there are a couple others, but these are the ones I know by name. These are the ones where if I want to hang out, like, I'm going to go look for these people. I will say I also kind of slowed down watching Murphy Napier's video because I was really a fan of the Dear Author series because it's inspiring and moving to me. So I'll probably watch all those again and then maybe catch up on some of the more recent wrap-ups, but I think it's going more graphic, my nose is so sinusy. Graphic novels and manga right now, which isn't very what I have been reading. Not to say that I won't. It's just not where my head is right now. So yeah, I've been kind of like, again, it's not really for recommendations anyway. So, but Jessie E's video from Bow Ties and Books was so good, and I haven't finished the last quarter yet, but it's just super inspiring as a writer because these, like, it was like every book was akin to the type of books that I want to read, but also the type of books that I have always wanted to write, that I've always said I've never seen books like this. And there were like 3 solid examples of books that are exactly the type that I want to read. Like it was Black, it was sci-fi, it was fantasy, it was historical, it was well-informed, it was low fantasy, it was high fantasy, the type of magic systems that were described in that video. And I know that Jessie E did not write these books, but they hand-picked all of these books to read for this 1 hour-long video. Like, that's exactly the content that I want to see. And then they're talking about the exact type of books that I want to read. So I'm like, dang it, now I gotta go add all these books to my to-read list, which is not what I really came for. But because they're the type of stuff that I'm writing, it was also super motivating. It was also super motivating to see somebody that I feel like that I would get along with reading those type of books, especially since I'm writing that type of book. It was super exciting to see. I am stalling at this point. But yeah, so I'm not stalling. This has been wonderful to talk this out. I'm gonna get into it because I really think that today is the day. Okay, so it is technically a new day. There's no technicalities about it. The sun is coming up, baby. It is almost 6 o'clock in the morning. And I had to come outside because I didn't want anybody to know yet. But I am officially a published author. Like, I am published. Like, Hardback is being approved as we speak. I am uploading the paperback and the ebook right now. I'm just waiting for them to both tell me that the cover art is the right size and that the words should fit in the margins appropriately, things like that. So it takes a minute for the computer to decide, or whatever programs they have to decide, to figure all that out, to load it up, to show me for a preview. It just, and then I did both at the same time. I was like, let's work on the ebook while we're working on the paperback. And then the ebook was so fast that they're both just loading right now. So I can see if they look good and approve it. And the website won't approve it unless it seems to fit based on their bots. Now, when I first did the hardcover one, it didn't work. Like the first 2-3 times, I tried to do it another way and I couldn't do it that way. And then I thought I was going to have to disturb the cover artist. And by the grace of God, I tried one more time the same way and it worked. I don't know why, but I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. We are officially published. And as a matter of fact, it said that I can order copies of whatever I upload for myself to preview. So that's great. That is fulfilling my deadline fantasy. Because I thought it was going to be 10 days before I could do anything. And so now it's like, oh, it might take up to 72 hours to approve. So that's an extra week early for me there. And then it was saying that I can go ahead and order once it's finished. Like, I can order myself now. So I think I can go ahead and order hardbacks already because that has been done as far as what I can preview. It says published. Published and waiting for approval. And then there are the paperback and hardback ones, which I'm waiting for to give me the preview. But the ebook actually is official. Like, as soon as I put it in there and do my thing, the ebook is up for sale. So now where we are is the book will be for sale, but I'm not ready to tell anybody. I don't mind if people happen upon it because, like, I don't have a big YouTube following yet, but this video, by the time it's posted, by the time this video is posted, I will be published. By the time this video is posted, I probably still would not have done my my cover reveal. Like, I haven't said the title or my author name yet, and I'd like to do that, not on this video, but the next video. So technically the book will be on sale already by the time I upload this video. However, I'm not going to tell you the name of it or my name, etc., etc. So if you are watching my YouTube at the time I post this, then good luck finding my story is kind of like where we are. Like, you won't be able to find it really. And if you are, buy it, review it, be the first to review it and read it, you know what I mean? But otherwise, if you're seeing this, another week from the post date, or another 2 or 3 weeks max, we should have done the book launch. We probably will have done the trailer launch. Everything is ready. There's just this one video that I have to physically go somewhere to make it. And not only that, but I would like to have a physical copy of my hardback. I was hoping for a physical copy of the hardback with the book wrap on it. And I do have the book wrap, but they don't do that for Amazon. But I didn't even know Amazon was doing hardbacks. Like, it's in beta right now, and I'm gonna be a part of that. So yeah, yes, you can practice on me, Amazon. So but I do have the case bound and the book wrap for Ingram Spark, so it would cost me $74. Yeah, $74. It would cost me $49 to upload it to Ingram Spark, and then another $25 for something. I don't know. I could be wrong about that additional $25, but I do know if I have to edit anything in my book, it'll be an additional $25 every time I upload to Ingram Spark. Meanwhile, Amazon, their warehouse or whatever, they're printing, like they do the Ingram Spark printing. So, but they don't do book wraps for Amazon yet. So that's weird, but maybe we'll get that. Maybe if the case bounds go well, they'll give us the book wraps, in which case I'm ready, you know. It's technically for Ingram Spark, but it is the same size, so it should work. And it's the same printer, so it should work. But what I decided was to not wait on the book wrap, because what I was thinking is if I could only get the ebook and the paperback, then I would, what would I do? If I only had the ebook and the paperback, then I would do the same video that I'd like to do the cover reveal on, except instead of having that physical hardback copy, I would instead make the trailer the book cover reveal. But I don't want to do that because it has it's not inhibiting the view of the cover very much, but it does have like an animated mist over it, so spoiler alert on that. And I don't want that to make it difficult to see in any way for the first time people are seeing it. By the time I put out the trailer, I want to have my website right, and I want to have done the cover reveal already. So ideally, I would go in here and get some sleep, you know, firstly and foremostly, and then edit this video to then premiere tomorrow, ideally. And then I'm doing some stuff for another writer tomorrow, with and for another writer tomorrow, or tomorrow. And then Saturday, some family stuff. So by Sunday or Monday, that's when I want to be doing more of that business stuff, and more specifically figuring out my website. I'm not sure if I'm going to launch the website right away or not now, because I was only going to launch the website so that I could post the hardcover copies, but now I'm going to have Amazon hardcover copies. They won't have book wraps, but I'm happy to wait on the book wrap. However, the only way for me to get signed copies is for me to be either A, face-to-face, or B, have a website where I offer that. So a lot to think about still. I do have it copyrighted, but it's copyrighted under the old name, and there has been a few other changes. So I'm going to do that copyright. Honestly, I'll probably do it after I go to sleep, get up, do my copyright, and then edit this video. That's what I'm thinking. And if I don't do that, then I'll get up, edit this video, and then do the copyright. So the copyright will be done before the weekend is over, or the updated copyright rather. And what else? So updated copyright. The website now is a question mark, because we're still at a point where we want to save money, but because I don't have to do Ingram Spark, it saved me a little bit, but now I'm going to use that money for something else, and I already forgot what that is. But that does mean, because I have to literally go to the bank. I don't have a card for the bank where I'm saving my money for my book, in order to make sure I don't touch that money until I need it. If I won't physically go, then I don't actually need it. That's how I think. So the account that I do have access, and I remember the card number and everything, so I can type it in anytime. That's crazy, but you know, my brain just picked it up after all these years, I guess. So that card has enough money on it for me to do another step, but I haven't decided what step that's going to be. So it's whatever the most immediate thing is, I can do right now. So that could be the copyright, which is what I'm thinking I'll do first. But I also need to submit the check for my business license that makes me able to just sell books from anywhere. I need to pay for my what is it? Vendors? No, that's a word, but I don't think it's the word that I'm looking for. I don't know if that's the word that I'm looking for, but it's kind of like a vendors, peddlers license or something. It's peddlers. I know that, but I don't know if it's a license or what. But to make it so that I can basically sell my own books from anywhere. If I don't do that, though, I can still, like, I don't have to have a business to do this. I chose to have a business, which means I need to finish that so I can get my business account, et cetera, et cetera. So I do think I want to do that. I do think I want to do that before July is out, at least. But we're in June. We're still in the middle of June. And I thought that if I posted this book in the middle of June, it wouldn't be out until the end of June. But now I think it's going to be out in a few days. Which, good news, the best news, that means I can put my story into the competition that I've been wanting to put it in. And since I uploaded to Amazon, say I decide to edit everything tomorrow, I can go and re-upload all of the manuscripts at no additional charge, and the printers will just be like, oh, okay, so we're printing this instead. And like, you know, no hiccups. So I'm hoping that I have like my best life working with Amazon. It's like nothing's going to be perfect, I know, but I'm hoping that Amazon is really easy for me to work with. I think it will be, since I got over that one hard part, and I did that, you know, on no sleep. So that's pretty good. I am going to go inside now and finalize my ebook and paperback. I already noticed one teeny tiny error. I just did my copyright page as I was uploading it, and I just like repeated a word. So I'm like, oh gosh, does that void everything? I don't know how that works, but I fixed it on my ebook. So my ebook, which will be out first, it'll be correct. So if you can find that, good luck, and good looking out. Yeah, send me a review. Let me know how you like it. Tell your friends. I'm not talking about it yet, but you can talk about it if you find it. Otherwise, we're going to keep it quiet as kept until the cover reveal, because that video is fitting to be litty city. I got to get some Z's going. I don't feel too tired, but I intend to keep it that way. So I'm going to go lay down. Peace. The time is now 3:17 a.m. I just got ready for bed. As a matter of fact, this here is my niece's 2-year-old birthday. So her party is on Saturday. Today's Friday. But I put my story in at around 5 a.m. Well, you saw what time it was. But now, here I am going to bed and thinking this story's not going to be up for 2 more days, right? But then I get this lovely email. And that was at 12:55 a.m. and I only just noticed it about 20 minutes ago. So that means Spirit was like, I know you want your book out on your baby's birthday, and 55 minutes after her second birthday, this book is out. And I want to tell you guys about it and do the cover reveal on her brother's birthday, which is in 2 weeks. So I got a lot to do, but I'm going to bed. So peace.